And no one is more deserving to sex than anyone else.
Facts.
A lot of people think people living with HIV shouldn't have access to the same level of sexual pleasure that others do, or trans people, or black queer people especially.
Right.
And so they either over-sexualize us, or we shouldn't have sex at all.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, sex shouldn't be up to anyone else but the people who are involved in it.
Yeah.
Period. Welcome to the PWN Amplified podcast. My name is Marnina Miller, and this is the Transcending episode. Today, we're talking about what it means to move into a life rooted in power, choices, and self-trust. Transcending isn't just about pretending things don't exist. It's about honoring what we've carried, naming what we've endured, and choosing growth, joy, and possibility. How would you each describe yourself these days? Outside of work, outside of titles, or any labels, how are you coming into this space? And I'm going to start off with you, Mike.
I'm Michael Elizabeth. My pronouns are they, she. Outside of work, it's hard to say because work is so consuming. But I think I'm rooted. I'm rooted in care. I'm rooted in love. I carry the experiences of people who I love and who I define as chosen family with me everywhere I go. I look for opportunities to be able to thrive without having to live in fear of my safety and my ability to just exist who I am. And so who I am, I find myself around a lot of beautiful, blessedly beautiful people my entire life. When I found out I was living with HIV, in 2010 at this point, I had a lot of beautiful people around me affirming that my life is still valuable. Throughout my transition, similarly, my sister, yourself, Vanita Ray, these are people that have kept me alive beyond the work and helped me find joy. So,
what about you, Coco?
Okay, how you doing? I'm Christen Coco Valentine. I'm she, her, Miss Thing. Those is my pronouns, for real. Currently, I'm outraged. I'm tired. I'm happy sometimes, but majority of the time I am outraged. We are in a crisis, and so that's something that I currently feel. So that's currently my state outside of work, honestly.
So, Mike, you are a native Houstonian, which I just recently learned. What are people always talk about the South and they have negative connotations. Like all we do is ride horses and have on cowboy boots. What are folks missing about living in the South?
There's something very special about living in the South. I don't think it's a coincidence that some of the harshest, most anti-Black, most anti-brown and immigration and anti-trans attacks happen in the South. It's because this is where our communities are, and we have built sanctuaries at, right? And that's the story that gets erased with the stereotypes of the South. In Texas specifically, I have never experienced, and I've lived all over the country at this point, in very liberal parts of the country to, very politically mixed parts of the country. But what's so special about Houston and Dallas and other parts of the South is like our Black communities, our migrant communities, and how we're able to really take care of each other despite the policy hostilities.
Yeah.
I remember when I first moved back to Houston, I was running away from my status. I found I was living with HIV in DC, and I thought having a job in politics would somehow make me a better person, right? I was dealing with my own internalized HIV stigma. But I ultimately found a program at Legacy Community Health that was like, we need to develop new leaders because all of our Black queer leaders have passed away. And there's not that many of us left in Houston.
Wow.
And so ironically, my journey brought me back to HIV, something I thought I was running away from. But throughout the entire process, I remember I had a HIV testing site at a local bar that doesn't exist now. And a fraternity brother used to pick me up at midnight every Thursday night after he got off of work to make sure I get home safely. Like that's the type of community that we have here in the South that oftentimes don't get talked about.
That's beautiful. I never knew your story around how you left policy and came right back to it anyway.
Sometimes when I believe I'm a Unitarian Universalist, so
What's that? Tell me more about that. What does that mean?
I actually never talked about that publicly. I grew up missionary Baptist, a very restrictive religion, but my faith believes that all of our practices are valid. In fact, it might take more than one of our religious beliefs to find the right one. And so my spirituality practice is a mixture of different religions. And Unitarian Universalists tend to respect and honor all versions of organized religion. And so from that perspective, I do believe that whatever God you may believe in or universe you may believe in brought me into my purpose in the South.
That's beautiful. So, Coco, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I moved here roughly maybe over 10 years ago. I came with ambition. I came with hope for change. I came from a city that was definitely underserviced and very poverty strict at the time when I was there. So it was really hard for me to really grasp, is this enough? Is this it? Am I going to be here forever? So moving to Houston was really a stepping stone into like the next stage in my life. I have been a makeup artist forever. I started off in the strip clubs. That's actually where I got my claim to fame. I'm so grateful for that client who actually took me under her wing and brought me into the club. I know that's so crazy, but that's exactly how it happened. But
we love the strippers.
I mean, I do. Don't get me wrong. I like a little shake and a little bake. But what happened was I was baking too much. I was having too much fun. My life was, I guess I made great money. I was somebody who was making good money. I was doing what I was doing, but I was getting home at 6 a.m. every day. I was, tired more than I was awake. I wasn't, I wasn't really alert. I didn't have a lot of my essential things. I didn't have a license. I didn't have this, but I had money. I was in the club. Like, my life was going well for some people, but for me, I knew I needed something else. And I needed to focus that into something. So moving to Houston kind of navigated that for me to say, okay, let me go somewhere else. Let me take myself out of this environment. I know it's hard. I'm leaving my home. I'm leaving this. I'm leaving that. But I need something new. So a little bit about me is I came from an old beginning to come to a new beginning, basically.
So what made you choose Houston? Because I am a native Michigander myself.
Okay.
So what made you choose Houston?
Full transparency, I was a hoe. Okay. And so
Period.
I was traveling and I was doing things outside of makeup. I mean, makeup was doing what I wanted to do, but like I said, the strip club introduced me to a lot of bad habits. One of them was, escorting and doing things like that. So with that being said, I traveled around the United States. I mean, I literally went to plenty of cities and seen different types from Des Moines, Iowa to Miami, so I came to Houston with a friend, and it was just something about it. It was something about seeing the black people with luxury cars. It was something about seeing black people doing a little bit more than what I was used to seeing. And that really kind of gave me something. We went to the gas station right there off of, I think that's Westheimer's in Renwick or Chimney Rock. And it was a man got off the car and he was in this big body Bentley and he was black and he was fine. I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? This is not the... So that alone kind of just said, okay, maybe it is something down there for me. Yeah. And so when I came down here, it was. So that was kind of, all of that.
I love that. And you know what? Sex work is work.
Okay, baby. And hard work.
It really is.
No puns intended.
It really is.
Before we go any further, I kind of want to talk about more about Texas policy and politics. Because when I think of a political guru, you're the first person that pops into my mind.
That's wild.
For real. And you're the first person who I saw that was actively working in policy and politics.
Yeah.
That was a person living with HIV.
Yeah.
You showed me that I could do this, and I could do policy work, and that it's for all of us to get our feet wet in. And so we are seeing in this country, unfortunately, and especially in Texas, we saw over 100 anti-trans laws that are impacting the bodies of our trans siblings. Yeah. So from where you sit, how are anti-trans policies impacting trans folks that are living with HIV here in Texas and across the country?
Where do you start? And just to backtrack a little bit, I'm also just happen to be the director of public health policy at Equality Federation. It's a national LGBTQ advocacy organization that supports state-based LGBTQ advocacy. And one of my most special positions that I hold is the co-chair of the U.S. People Living with HIV Caucus. And from those intersecting experiences, I will say what oftentimes gets underlooked in the anti-trans attacks is access to health care that includes gender-affirming care. We're being so minute in how we're trying, and by we, I mean the system, society, politics, identifying newer ways to attack our existence. At this point, you don't need laws to erase us. If you have insurance policies that refuse to cover transgender people, when we have data collection systems that are now erasing our identities. A lot of us depend on white, for example, but when we don't know how many gender expansive and transgender people depend on white, how do we know that our people are receiving white? How do we, which is now, data just showed is the most effective program when it comes to retrovirus suppression. These laws are having an amplified effect on our ability to not just survive, because people see some of our healthcare as privileges or as accessories, when they're mandatory for us to be able to live another day. And so I would say these laws, and we all have a obligation to fight them, go beyond just bathroom, even though that's critical. I'm having too many friends, including myself, who are now having safety issues. Just going into a bathroom now. I had a workout partner at the gym who's identifies as a trans woman, and she used to be able to go to the trans locker room, and now she has to go into the men's locker room. And so, of course, I try to be there with her to protect her, but that's our new norm now in some of these states in existence. And so our healthcare extends beyond the doctor rooms, right? When we experience discrimination in public spaces, when we're experiencing attacks, both physical and through policy, it prevents our ability to take care of ourselves. And as we know, when we're not able to take care of ourselves, it also impacts the broader community, because we don't just, in full transparency, sleep with trans people.
Right. I appreciate you going into depth and talking about not just the policies that are impacting like trans folks, but really talking about the day-to-day lived experiences and how those lived realities can impact someone's life, livelihood, their overall well-being, and then the community at large. Because I think a lot of us often forget that even cisgender women are impacted by transphobia. We recently seen, like in pop culture, how Just Hilarious was attacking T.S. Madison, but folks often call and say that Just Hilarious looks trans. And so that in turn shows us how transphobia is so widely vague and broad, and how it impacts so many different folks. We often see it also in sports, and how cisgender women are like, oh, you have too much testosterone in your body, when we know that gender is nothing more than a social construct.
Well, transphobia is colonialism, right? And it is deeply anti-Black. And I would argue, personally, it started with attacking Black women in sports.
Wow.
Black women their gender were being questioned whenever we were winning, whenever we were seen as like, oh, no, it's impossible that a Black woman could be the fastest person in the world. You must be a man, right? And that happened before how we now see transgender attacks, right? It's actually born from the civil rights area, anti-Blackness, and attacks on Black women specifically.
And from what I've read and the things that I've read, a lot of Black trans women were the first ones to really fight for the liberation of trans folks. And like the civil rights movement of LGBTQ folks started off with Marsha P. Johnson and other women of color.
Black trans women fought for the liberation of queer people, and quite frankly, all people, including women. And so a lot of our civil rights struggles, regardless of your identities, is because of Black trans people.
I know that's right. So, Coco, I
Yes,
wanted to
ma'am.
ask you, how do these laws really translate into harm against Black trans women? Because Mike definitely broke it down and talked
Hmm.
about like the social construct of everything and really broke it down into talking about the individual and also community aspects. So, how do these laws, these anti-trans laws, impact someone's lived experience in daily life?
So, and I really reflect with your story. I mean, I could never even stand in your shoes, especially somebody, like you say, living with HIV and having to deal with the certain things. So that is applause to that, honestly, true T. And for me, I sit in a place where I look at it as a reimagined version of racism, right? Even um, when they spoke about how black women was, treated in sports at the beginning. If we all remember, it was a famous figure skater. She used to flip. She used to do backflips. She was a black woman. And she was actually changing the game as far as figure skating went. But they had pushed against her so hard that they actually kind of said that she could not complete in the Olympics. She could not, so that's been happening for a long time. So what ended up happening is that they switched, they knew, because at that time, the black woman was such under attack and everybody was attacking. Now the narrative has switched a little bit, and now they say, okay, we can't use black women anymore. We have to kind of go to their subsidiary, which is trans women. So it all kind of turned back into what it was already at the beginning. It just looks different, and what it looks like is it looks like exactly how it feels. It feels like racism. It feels like somebody trying to hold you back. It feels like I'm always being watched or I'm always being looked at. For us to be 1%, damn near 0% within the whole United States, and for us to have so much litigation and so much stuff against us, that kind of just shows you that they really don't have anything to do but to go against people. And what they notice is that if I go against these people, I can get these people to go for us. If I go against these people, I can get these people to go for us. So that's all they're doing, is they're just using this narrative so they can push theirs. And it makes me really feel like at this point, what am I gonna do? Like you say, you can't go to the bathroom. You can't even really go out in public, because at this point I went to, and I'm not saying I'm a passable, whatever the case may be, but at one point in time my life was pretty simple. I went to work, I paid my bills, I went home. But now I notice that I am a little bit more gawked at, a little bit more looked at, a little bit more in the forefront, where before it was just I lived my life. I'm not trying to live my life as a copy of you. I'm just trying to live my life as me. I'm not trying to be anybody else other than who I am. And honestly, if I was to try to be a woman, I want to be my mama. Like, I want to be the who popped me out a cat. That's who I want to be. And I think any child should want to be that. You know what I'm saying? You should want to be your parents. You should strive to be. Now, my mama ain't afraid of my mama, but still, that's my girl, and that's who I would rather want to be like. I mean, she was the first beauty I met, so of course that's who I would want to thrive. So I think that they're using us to push a narrative, and it's working. Unfortunately, it's working for the worst of it, and it's kind of showing. And what I really hate is that it shows people's true integrity. It shows the
Yes, it
people who you
does.
thought was like, what?
Yeah.
You thought that was cool. Every time I've got so desensitized to social media. Every time I get on, I felt like it's another person who I used to love
Yeah.
has went against me, and I'm like, wait a minute. Now you have a whole think piece talking about the bathroom, or you talking about we trying to do, and it's like, no, we are not. Maybe they were, and a lot of times what one person does, and we all know this, what one person does now is the group. Just because one trans person cussed you out at the grocery store don't mean I'm gonna cuss you out at the grocery store. And what happened? You know what I'm saying? Just like we say, we don't know. Trans people right now are going through a lot, so mental health is not the best. Yes, we can get hormone therapy out the wazoo. Do not get me wrong, but they don't automatically offer you therapy. They don't automatically offer you the things that's really going to get you and make you impactful. They don't offer that at first. Those things don't even, you have to kind of ask for it, get referred to it, and then with certain places, you wait months to even get that referral. You wait months, and then by the time it's like, well, I don't even need that amount. Well, you really do need it. So a lot of times we are look at a lot of times I feel like they're looking at the wrong things because they want to push a narrative, and that's just really what's going on right now with this whole situation.
You dropped some gems, Coco.
Maybe some gems.
Like from the point where you said about your mom, I love my mama too. Like that's my girl.
Yeah.
And when I think about like beauty or even like my outfits, I try to create stuff that she wore back in the day. Like
absolutely.
that's my girl.
I stole my mama clothes. She used to cuss me out. Get out! You got my coat. Where's my purse? I got her stuff. I loved how my mama sweat. It was nobody else. My mama drove a Bobo. I'm like, girl, I want a Bobo too. Like, what? Who you know drive a Bobo? Like, so my mom has such the personality. She worked in politics as well. She actually worked for the city of Detroit, and she worked for the Wayne County building. She was actually over the technology department, which basically is the lights and stuff. You know, you call her, like, my lights out. You know?
Baby, that's essential.
So, you know, it was an essential job, but, you know, that's where she comes from. So I seen her get ready for work every morning. I seen her spray on that white diamond or that alien.
God, your mama had the white diamonds
Alien, white diamond. She had all of it. And I seen her wear the cute blouses with the skirts. I just seen her look so lovely. Every morning I smell coffee, perfume, okay? That was every morning. That's how I knew. I said, ooh, it's almost time for me to get up. Because you get to smell the coffee perfume. Because she's ready. She getting ready for work. So, yeah, that's who I thrive to be like. You know, I want to get ready for work. Like Cheryl Valentine.
That's my new motto, coffee and perfume.
Oh.
I like that. We start a line, coffee and perfume.
Okay.
Oh, you should.
Okay.
That'll be cute.
I do like that. You are right.
Okay. Come on, Coco.
I always do this.
Coco, I really resonated too when you said that there are communities that pit communities against each other.
Yeah.
And I think it's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what white supremacy does.
Absolutely.
It pits us against each other. And when we are harming each other, they are also harming us as well.
Absolutely.
And so folks are like punching down.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where, to me, where I see transphobia being so visceral and violent is in our own like Black communities where we see other Black folks punching down on their trans siblings.
Yep.
And so I think internally we have to figure that out too, about how we get out of harming trans folks and really working alongside and figuring out where that transphobia stems from.
Yeah.
I just want, I agree.
Yes.
Plus one everything.
Yes.
Black communities are not nearly as engaged around transgender and LGBTQ issues as other communities are around. I'm called White Gay Inc., so no organization feel attacked.
Okay.
Black communities rarely receive the opportunities from, like, the resources even. There's multi-million dollars are poured into Florida right now to help fight back against trans attacks. None of it poured into Black communities. The target audience is always a Marge.
Yeah.
It's never an Ophelia or a Jessie Mae Binkley. And so I do want to give grace and compassion to our community because I don't know if we receive the same grace and opportunities to evolve as other communities have. And I will also say that, like, most of the people that have kept me alive are Black people. And I don't want to, like, overshadow the lack of opportunities our communities get to evolve with the people who have really dug in the trenches with us, including people in this room who are, I think, are the best reflections of all of who we are, not just Black people, but as women. And it's people that have to fight for, like, different intersectional identities every day. I just had to say that.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling me in.
A lot of, like, mainstream trans issues, you don't see Black people in them. And so how can we blame Black communities for not embracing that? Me personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. What I think about often when I think about issues that intersect with, like, being Black and trans, I think about the fact that in the South, the average lifespan of a Black trans woman is 30 years old. And we know that violence is particularly coming from inside of our own communities. And the fact that is even a statistic, we know that if it mirrored our white siblings, that it would be
They would have
chaos in the
interventions.
streets.
They would have interventions left and right.
We would hear about it constantly on the news. There would be so many intervention programs and so much education. And so I definitely hear you, and I appreciate
and this
that.
is going to really get me in trouble, but I think our national LGBTQ organizations prefer to fundraise off of our deaths than intervene.
That's a word.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say
That's
about that?
not about
Coco?
right. It's sad because that is the honest truth. A lot of times you notice that a lot of times these nonprofits won't really recognize you unless they got a grant that says they have to. So you have to really realize that yes, this is my community. Yes, I'm supposed to be a part of it, but they only kind of want to mess with me unless they have money that's going to help, that's funding them, and they're going to give me $150 stipend or give me or offer me something, but it's really not enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm noticing that it's only for the numbers a lot of times. It is not necessarily for the community. And that's where it kind of sometimes falls on us because we know better. Not all of us, but some people, they know better, but they get caught in the whirlwind of what it looks like to have a little money, to be the CEO or to be somebody in a higher profile in these organizations, opposed to really realizing that they're in a community-based organization to help the community. We get so lax in trying to look fancy and trying to be cute, in which I'm the wrong person to say it because I love to be fancy and I love to be cute. But I also have to realize that I'm human too. And I have a life that I want to live too, and I want you to live it, and I want you to be. So I think that you have to kind of, a lot of us need to humble ourselves and realize that this is a community and we all need to take a step forward, opposed to always kind of looking at each other as, well, what you gonna do? Well, I ain't gonna do it unless you do it. And then if you do it, tell me how, okay, you gonna give me some money if I, we need to get out of that notion and push forward and say, if we really gonna help this community, let's really do it.
This is Amplified Takes, quick responses, don't think about it. And I want you all to give me your honest and raw answer. So, hope or strategy?
Listen, I love hope. I love all that. That's good and all. But if you are strategic and you know what you're about to do and you have a plan, it's go to action. Strategy calls to action, and action calls to results. So that's what I'm looking for. Hope, you can throw that in too. But really, strategy is my main focus.
Obama's crying right now because his whole campaign was about hope.
And as you can see, we're on another president. That's gone.
I think he would agree
hope
at this
point. That strategy is now.
I think he would
hope
agree.
is gone.
Strategy. You're a strategic person.
Yeah, that was the easiest answer. That was the easiest question for me.
Yeah, and I would have said hope in the past, but no, we don't need.
With the right strategy, you would inspire hope.
Facts. I feel that way. It's gonna all lead to that anyway.
So this is for you, Mike, for sure. Reform or abolition?
Abolition.
Reform or abolition?
I'm with abolition as well. No shade.
Why you say abolition? I want to know.
You say if I had to choose.
Yeah.
It's probably surprising to you because I operate from a framework of reform.
It was.
I do, because that's just the life that we live in. But if I had one where I could be able to choose, it would be abolition. Now, it does require community care.
It does.
Because you can't just have one solution without the other components. And so that means a wealth of resources for mental health care, a wealth of resources for making sure that housing is a right, a wealth of resources to making sure that everyday health care is a right? And that all goes to, for me, being an abolitionist.
Okay. I read that book recently, Becoming Abolitionist, and I'm still doing my research to figure out, what is my lane in abolition.
I want to be clear, though. I practice reform.
So, Coco, healing or accountability?
Oh, my God. And so that one's tricky because I'm an accountability type of bitch. Can we cuss?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm an accountability type of bitch, okay? I thrive in that, but... No, I'm going to go for accountability, babe. You got to take accountability for me, because if you don't, it kind of makes me look at you a funny way, especially when I know what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For me, accountability is love. And so I'm going to go with accountability.
Hold me accountable.
And I have to say, this is from Esmendisa Moore-O'Neill, the executive director of Center for HIV and Law and Policy. That's who I stole that from. But accountability is love. And so... love is healing, and we cannot start the healing process without accountability.
Organizing or storytelling?
Storytelling.
Storytelling?
Yep.
Why storytelling?
Why are you going to organize unless you have stories to organize over?
Yep.
It's the stories that really get people to be like, okay, I need to do something about this.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to have history.
You? Oh, you storytelling.
I'm so sorry I'm with you, because you got to have history. You got to tell those stories to get the people moving. And if they don't know the stories, they won't know their history. You got to, and they trying to erase that. So, no, storytelling for effects.
Urgency or sustainability?
Damn. You need both, though.
You do.
You have to.
Honestly.
Especially right now.
Woo!
Especially
Truthfully.
like working in the nonprofit industrial complex, you have to have both.
Yes.
All right. Policy change or a cultural shift?
You cannot have policy change without a cultural change.
No.
Yeah. Recently, I was listening.
But I'm only good at policy change.
Don't get it twisted.
So speak your truth. I like that. No shade.
But honestly, I would say that when you come into spaces, you change the culture of the space. Power or access?
The more and more I find myself in spaces where I now have access, I'm working towards how can we build power in those spaces.
That's it.
Because
I love
being
that.
at the table is just not enough anymore.
I love that. No, I love that. It's beautiful.
But stay nosy.
Stay nosy. I thrive in that. Stay nosy.
Because I be nosy too.
Because you got to know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I got to understand how you doing this. How you making the schedule? How you clicking through this?
I'm looking
What's
through
this
your
right
budget.
here?
I'm like,
I'm looking through all of that. I'm
This
not
is
going to lie
interest.
to you. I'm not going to lie. I am. I know how all the managers get paid. I know how much. Like, I want to know. So
I know all the tea.
I do.
So, Coco, money or sex?
Girl, I'm going with sex, Alex, for 800.
I'm going to choose money, but only because of my personal journey with sex. I finally have reached a space in my journey where sex is pleasurable.
Okay. And that's...
I live the life of transactional sex. Sex can get you funding. Sex, not saying I've ever did this, but I'm going to shake a titty or two.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's still sexualization. That's still like attractive, privilege.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of that, which is still rooted in sex. And so for me to be in a space where sex is actually for me and for whomever I'm with, and it's just purely rooted in pleasure, I want to protect that. And money does not have to be part of that anymore.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, and we need to take that stigma off of sex. Sex is a part of life. Sex is what we do. It's a thing that we do. We eat, we do this, we do that, and we have sex. So it's not a bad thing. It's powerful. It's a part of who you are. And if you decide to share it with whoever you share it with, it's an intimacy. It feels different. When you're doing it, I don't want to get too explicit, it feels different. It's not the same feeling that you have when you're walking down the street or when you're eating something at McDonald's. It's a totally different feeling. So that means it's supposed to be. It's supposed to feel like that. Like, it's an energy. It's a feeling. It's a power. It's not a bad thing. It should not be stigmatized, or it shouldn't be looked down upon. It should be really looked at as, this is a part of who I am, as well as, anything else. So,
and no one is more deserving to sex than anyone else.
Facts.
A lot of people think people living with HIV shouldn't have access to the same level of sexual pleasure that others do, or trans people, or Black queer people especially.
Right.
And so they either over-sexualize us, or we shouldn't have sex at all.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, sex shouldn't be up to anyone else but the people who are involved in it.
Yeah.
Period.
And that's
I'm super sex positive, and it's honestly because of my diagnosis. Like, once I learned about like sex positivity, and like once I learned about like the fact that this is my body, like body autonomy, I was like, oh. And then I started going even deeper and learning about how we have nerve endings in our like genitals and what that means.
Right.
And I've had the best sex of my life since learning about my diagnosis.
I have to admit that.
Okay.
I have to. Well, I would say I became sexually liberated since my diagnosis. I didn't realize how many social constructs I was holding around sex.
Yeah.
But then when you have what is socially deemed as the worst, it kind of opened, one, that's not true, and then two, it kind of opens your door to like, what else is socially constructed about sex, and what do I need to hold on to and not hold on to anymore.
Collective care or self-care?
Self-care is collective care.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
It's self-care all the way. All the way.
Because I feel like I can't pour from an empty cup. Like, that's what I learned.
Facts.
And, I don't want to disparage our people who've had to do that in the past, but I don't know if we can serve our people the best if we're not healed ourselves, or if we're tired. If you're on that fourth conference back to back, you're a little irritable.
Facts.
Right? And so how can we make sure that the people that we're representing are being served if we're not rested and able to show up in a fuller version of ourselves, especially when the consequences are beyond us?
When systems fail, and they often do, where does care come from?
With Joelle, we are part of a group called Tech Sages, and we actually a partnership with the University of Houston, and we conduct actual research study for trans women and for their health. And some of those questions we do ask pertains to HIV health and things like that. But some of the main things that I really try to dive into, especially when we ask some of our younger trans girls, is what do you need? What's something that you need currently? And a lot of times they just need guidance and talk. That's what I needed. When I first came out, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't understand anything. I didn't have the proper sexual health. I'm blessed to say that, certain things did not come towards my way as far as violence and things like that, or not understanding. Because you as somebody who works the stroller, whatever you do, you need that girl to tell you, like, don't get in that car, or watch for this, or watch for that, or understand that. So right now, what I think we just need to do is we need to understand what the particular people need, and help with that part.
Yeah, and I think Coco just illustrated how we've always taken care of each other outside of the systems, and that's not going to stop. I remember even before this new federal crisis that we're in now, I was transitioning jobs to my current job. I was about to say I removed myself from the political plantation that is working for elected officials. If I ever work for an elected official again, I did not say this.
Because get your money. Okay?
But of course, when you transition to a new job, it's like 3 months before you get the benefits, et cetera. And so I didn't have access to meds. And 3 months can make a huge difference for those of us living with HIV. It was actually Tana from the Texas Strike Force and PWN's board who gave me literally no questions asked 3 months supply of HIV meds for me to live as I transition into my new job. And that's just one example of many people stepping into my personal life, making sure that I was taken care of outside of the system. And that's what we do for each other. Mutual aid is like what PWN, I believe, is a model of what we all should be doing if we have the capacity, if you're part of our organization, because we are going to have to identify ways of where we're going to have to meet the gap of where our people are not necessarily receiving the care and support that we need. One of the personal things that I make sure that we do is proper confrontation. Oftentimes we systematically take advantage of each other, right? So just for example, Coco, you are passionate about this and you believe in the change for our communities. So I'm gonna ask you to do a lot of things, right? And it's oftentimes go uncompensated. Or sometimes when it does, you get like an honorarium and that's it, right? Like the job is done. And one of my best mentors, friends, I used to call her community wife until she got married, Atlantis Narcissus, who's the founder and CEO of Save Our Sisters United.
SOS,
thank you. SOSU. She used to tell me, we like asking trans people to speak on a panel, but we rarely make sure that we're walked to our car afterwards. And to me, that's taking care of each other outside of the systems, right? Is making sure that we're holding each other beyond our usefulness.
That's it.
Wow,
That's it.
that was powerful.
Yeah.
That's a quote.
Even part of my transition journey, which is a journey, I thought it would be like a completion. But in my transition journey, it's people that has helped me with that. Like my first initial affirming clothing I'm wearing was from Vanita Ray, from her closet. This dress is from Vanita Ray. And I'm just constantly blessed about people pouring their own personal resources into helping me figure out my own next steps in life. And that, to me, is a form of the care that we need to provide each other.
What does leadership look like in practice as a trans person?
It's not being stealth. Some leaders are stealth leaders. They lead behind the desk or they lead behind. And
Tell us what stealth is before you go.
Stealth is somebody who kind of lives their life but doesn't really live their life in the forefront, right? They live it where you can see them or you may even know about them, but you really don't know about them. A lot of trans women live stealthily. A lot of trans men live stealthily, where, they are trans and they live their life trans, but they're married, they have kids, and they are kind of living their own life outside of within the community.
Okay.
Where some of our leaders, they are our leaders, but they don't really, you don't always see them within the mix of it all. And so with a lot of the women who are trans leaders, a lot of us have came from out of that kind of sitting in the background waiting for we kind of pushed out. So I think that really right now it's not being stealth, knowing that it's going to get better, knowing that we are going to push forward, that this is kind of not a normal thing for us. We understand that we are the leaders of people going against us. So just kind of being out there, being on the forefront, and really just kind of knowing that it's going to be okay. I mean, honestly, that's really all we can do is stay strong.
This is a tough question.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Because I think I struggle with this. We all have internalized a lot of things. Part of my internalized transphobia is wishing I was able to transition sooner. Potentially when I was younger, a youth even. But the reason I say that is because transitioning in public is tough, especially when you're in leadership. And oftentimes, for me in my personal journey, leadership looks like translating pain into policy. That without losing your humanity.
Yeah.
And that is such a tough part because these meetings are, as Coco said earlier, oftentimes we're the only one. Only Black person, only trans person. And you're grateful if you're just the only Black trans person, right? Like, because you have other Black people in the room, or you have other trans people in the room, or you have other people living with HIV in the room. But oftentimes we're all 3 or 4 in one space.
Spread out.
And we have to represent everything.
Yeah, I've been in some meetings with you before, and it was tough. Like, watching you navigate being the only Black trans person in the space.
Yeah. And me and my team member, we're the only Black trans people in my organization that I work full time, right? And so so what that looks like is we have to deal with so many microaggressions because God forbid we pop off, and then that cancels everything that we just said, all the work that we've done. And so it could be tough. It's a lot of unseen labor. It's oftentimes a lot of things that go unrecognized, I would say. Trans leadership is probably the most erased leadership I've witnessed and experienced at the same time.
Yeah, and I would say perseverance for sure.
And so I was going to say it does require a degree of perseverance, and it's still essential.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't know if we would be where we would be today if it wasn't for that invisible trans labor. And I want to be clear that trans labor should not be invisible.
Facts. I love that.
It does also include now a target on your back. We're in media a lot now.
Yeah.
I am very cautious on what apps I'm using when I'm traveling. Most of the time, people know us before we even know them. I had somebody come up at United States Conference on HIV and AIDS recently, and it was like, this is the 3rd panel I saw you on. I had no idea who this white man was. And I was like, you never know it. Could this be an attack? Could this be a compliment? Or, you just never know which direction the energy is coming from. And so that's just the cost of leadership sometimes is that, like, you are, whether it's a target or you're just in the public eye, there's a lot more vulnerability and risk that I don't think we're properly mindful of all the time as a community.
No.
I think in my own privilege of being like a queer person, I never thought about the hypervisibility that is impacting like our trans siblings who are so vocal with their like stories, with their lives. And I never thought about you personally, Mike, or even you, Coco, like dealing with not only leadership, but the hypervisibility that comes with being a trans person who is in like a leadership space. So thank you for your like visibility. I really appreciate both of y'all for like leading in such a beautiful way, in an honest way.
I take a lot of my leadership notes from you, though. It's real.
Sweet.
So there was a time where 19th News posted an article about HIV criminalization. Quote, lots of beautiful people living with HIV. I just happened to be one of them. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Them on social media. Them is a LGBTQ news outlet. They reposted the article. And when I said that, comments were just horrific. They were like, they all should be locked up. They all like, this is like, these are threats against people who we love. And when I read that, I immediately just got alarmed. And I said, did I disclose my status in this article? So I rushed the article to reread it. And I remember feeling shame for even thinking like that.
Yeah.
And then, ironically, an article from Marnina came up, with you just being so bold and courageous about living with HIV as a Black woman. And I was like, people go through this every day. And so, this is... I'm amongst company. If somebody attacks me, I at least know I could call people.
And it's just sad how people are not educated, though. Even if you are or are not living with it, you should at least understand what it is, right? You should understand what the medication has done, how that has changed the narrative for a lot of people that's living with HIV. So just being educated, I think that's where we fail at, and that's where our ignorance is at, is that we just choose not to educate ourselves. We choose not to understand that it's a part of life. People do live this way, but you just need to understand it, opposed to being, like you said, people are saying that you should be in jail. Why? Especially if you don't, that don't even make sense. Where we have people killing people, we have people out here doing the worst of the worst type of things, but you saying that you should be in jail? I don't get that. I don't really get that, and it stems from ignorance.
What does joy feel like right now?
I'm joyful to see what it's going to be like after the dust is finally settled, which I think is going to be much better.
Come on, liberation in action. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm finding a very wise person is going to show how bought I am, because she happens to work at Merck Pharmaceutical. Her name is Dawn, and she gave us lots of access to funding, so thank you, Dawn. But Dawn told me she doesn't do work-life balance. She does work-life integration. And to me, I was like, aha moment. I failed at work-life balance my entire career and always thought that was something that I was just bad at, right? That there's a negative on my part. But really, the goal for me has always been work-life integration. And I find joy, and this is a blessing, this is at times even a privilege, but I find joy most of the time with the people I get to work with, right? Like one of the most joyful moments I had with you most recently was when we were partnering with AIDS United on their AIDS Watch, and we were deciding what workshops were going to be selected. And just you and I, like, talking to each other, saying, like, co-conspirating essentially, saying, how can we make sure this workshop get accepted? How can we make sure our Latino brothers and sisters and siblings are properly recognized and not just tokenized in this thing? That, to me, that provided joy, because like those are not the type of relationships that you see often in these spaces. And so when we find each other, I really do treasure and try to protect those relationships, those sisterhoods, and friendships, quite frankly, as much as possible. And it kind of brings joy to the work that I get to do, even if it's depressing.
Work-life integration. I'm going to have to
And there are some successes, y'all. Okay, so I just will say, on a state level, I know things are hostile right now, but like there's opportunities to pass HIV decrim laws. We've been successful with passing appropriations for people living with HIV, even in Texas, for long-acting injectable treatments. And so like with the right organizing, with the right storytelling, with the right centering of the right leadership, we can actually still make some advancements for our communities.
It's a lot of joy in this space. I feel it.
Okay.
And I'm excited about the future. Like, I think that once we get over this huge hump that we are experiencing with this political regime,
Right.
Hopefully the next elected leaders will not be anything like that.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to really get back to thriving and seeing what liberation looks like in practice.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about the future too.
Yeah, because it's really hurting us. A lot of my trans women have lost their job. A lot of my trans sisters have lost jobs because of this climate. I'm somebody who has been subject to getting laid off from my job. I actually worked in a space that really thrived in a more straight environment. I actually was the first ever Black trans woman to work for I worked for a Civic Heart, formerly known as Change Happens, but Civic Heart Community Services, and I was a healthcare navigator. And to be laid off because of the administration, because they chose that healthcare is not important and cut the funding. They slashed our budget by, I want to say, 90%. So we went from having $2 million to $500,000. maybe a little under that, and that can't do anything for the community.
Yeah.
And so, just being in that type of space and understanding that I'm just not really important enough, it's just it is kind of crazy. It is crazy to just be kind of pushed off and laid. It's like, what? But yeah.
300,000 Black women today have lost jobs due to what's currently happening with this political climate. So
Yes.
you are definitely not alone. And it's so disgusting how folks are discarding folks who are doing the work and really wanting to be there.
Right.
What can folks do for trans folks living in the South?
Let's stop being advocates for a certain time, right? Be my advocate all year long. You know what I'm saying? I notice that people advocate for trans or advocate for what's going on during that certain time of the month, which is November, But after that, December, they done uncrack like Mariah. Like, they over it. And I'm just like, where is that at? Like, why can't we get that all year long? Why can't we get that strength and push behind and, oh, I'm with you, girl, or, oh, I get it all year long? We almost just get it for a time and it fades away. So I would say, if anything, if y'all just keep the support, keep the advocate, add more advocate. And if you are an advocate for trans people, come out and say it. Like, we have enough people that saying that they're not. So where's the ones that say that they are? Like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. If you feel however you feel for us, because I can't make you change your ways. You know what I'm saying? But I want to see the people who is for me and who is living for me. I want to see them advocate for us, because I can only say so much. I'm only 1%. You know what I'm saying? I can only yell so much. I can only go off so much. So
you shouldn't have to do it alone.
And I should not, especially if you say you're my girl and you want to do this and that, so.
Want to come get your makeup done.
Get your makeup done, go out to eat, go to brunch, all of that. But I'm saying, well, girl, what's going on? I don't really know. I don't got nothing. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So.
I agree with that 100%. And I'm actually really proud of the HIV Caucus for year round, especially in 2025, that I'm pretty sure we're going to carry into 2026. We've been preaching about how every trans life matters, how every HIV story matters, really affirming our communities in ways that I don't think our organization has done previously. And I think that's in a way that a lot of leaders and organizations can really model, quite frankly, and then dig deeper beyond just slogans, right? Like, how are we actualizing that in practice, in meetings, and in some of the priorities? That means they're going to have to be adjusted. That we have to take some priorities off of our list and to prioritize protecting trans communities, right? Because only so much time in a day.
Facts.
But in short, I would say fund us. I'm going to repeat that because I know sometimes the throat can get a little clogged. I've been doing a lot of exercising with the throat lately. Fund us, follow our leadership.
Yes.
And understand it.
Ooh. Follow and understand our leadership. Thank you for that. Protect our data. Right now, we're targeted by so many entities on a federal level, and if you're in the South, by your state, local governments as well. So finding ways to protect our data is critical. Fight criminalization in all forms, right? Sometimes we stop at that fight at the part that impacts us.
Okay.
Whether it's HIV criminalization, we stop at HIV criminalization. Although they're criminalizing gender affirming care, but that's still criminalizing healthcare, right?
Wow.
And so let's extend our fight for criminalization. Stop asking trans people to be grateful for survival.
Ooh.
When we deserve safety, dignity, and joy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Baby, because sometimes I feel like working even in progressive spaces, you should just be lucky you're here. You're at the table.
And that's crazy.
We paid for you and we gave you a food. So
Yep.
I said a food, not even a meal. The attacks are very coordinated, and I want to say, and so should we be. And some of the most powerful moments for me in my trans journey, especially in leadership and in these organizing spaces and policy spaces, have been from our cis allies, actually. And I always point out Positive Women's Network because sometimes in public policy committee meetings, there are some anti-trans, tendencies in those meetings. And it's always Positive Women's Network. Before I even say anything, I'd be ready to get on that mic. It's always somebody from Positive Women's Network is to step in and be like, what we're not going to do right now. And you all have no idea, because of all the times we have to fight, right? We have to fight externally. We have to fight in these meetings. We have to fight within our own organizations. Like how exhausting those fights add up.
Yes.
By 1 p.m.,
Yes.
I'm a little cranky.
Yeah.
That's why I feel bad that HIV Caucus meetings are in the evenings, because y'all get the moods.
Yeah.
But like that preserves so much energy and also like creates a safety that I never experienced before with that level of solidarity. It's Positive Women's Network. Is also Mendisa Moore O'Neill's, also Kamaria for Zero Projects. There's a lot of cis allies who I think really illustrates how we can be better solidarity partners with each other.
Well, I heard clearly that folks need to be an ally and accomplice even when people are not watching, even when y'all are not in space. And I also hear like a need for folks to do that before y'all even step in, to be able to assist and help and be of like a person, an accomplice, a real person who is in real time supporting other siblings. And so I hear that, I receive that. I hope the other folks that are listening to our conversation take that away from this conversation. I really appreciate you both, Mike and Coco, for joining
I appreciate y'all
the
too.
PWN Amplified podcast,
Perfect.
for being so transparent and being so honest and real. And just being you all's amazing selves. So thank you.
No, thank you.
And this has
appreciate
been
it.
PWN Amplified.
Oh.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other.
We must love each other and support each other.